Hello, and welcome to the MMA Mic Drop Podcast. My name is Jade Bunky. In today's episode, I'm going to break down everything that's about to go down at UFC 324. It is the beginning of a new era, and the UFC does not want to disappoint. It's entertainment from the main event all the way to the early prelims. It features some of the sport's biggest personalities, but also some of the most exciting fighters in the world. It really does have a little bit of everything for everybody. So when we look at this fight card, I would give it an A-. It has incredible depth, but it's missing the co-main event, which fell off, and this really should have been a showcase fight for Ilia Topuria. But with that said, Justin Gaethje versus Paddy Pimblett. And I know, a lot of you are saying Arman Tsarukyan should be in the main event, and that's a fair point. Nonetheless, this is still a great main event. Let's dive right into it. I'm going to break down every single fight on this card. So, starting with the main event, you have Justin Gaethje versus Paddy Pimblett. Justin Gaethje, he is 26-5. And I think his record needs a little bit of context because when you look at those 5 losses, they're all against former champs and absolute legends of the sport. He has lost to Khabib Nurmagomedov, Max Holloway, Charles Oliveira, Dustin Poirier, who was an interim champ, and Eddie Alvarez. And when you look at his 26 wins, he has won 21 of them by finish. And that's, where he gets, his nickname, the highlight. And it is apropos because he can put people out. And he's one of those fighters who will take a punch to give a punch. He's happy to throw down in the pocket. Paddy Pimblett is the better grappler, but Justin Gaethje is a pretty decent wrestler as well, but his bread and butter is the striking. He likes to knock people out. He likes to throw down, and it's interesting because he's 37 years old, so that might give you a little bit of pause. And when we look at the odds, I think the odds reflect that. Paddy Pimblett, he's minus 230. Justin Gaethje, he is plus 190, and I think the line should be a little bit closer because when you look at Justin Gaethje's last 4 fights, he's won 3 of them, and it's against elite level competition. And where you would think somebody would have fallen off at age 37, basically with his style of fighting, he really hasn't. With that said, he could fall off any minute, and it might be dramatic because he is at that age where you start slowing down, where you really, you're just not as quick as you were, and that's a problem at this level in MMA. And, when you look at Paddy Pimblett, he's 23-3. And what's interesting about that, he hasn't lost since 2018, and he hasn't lost in the UFC. He's 7-0 in the UFC, and yes, I know, Jared Gordon. A lot of people thought Jared Gordon won that fight. I thought Jared Gordon won as well. But he's starting to rack up some wins against some pretty big names. But there's a caveat here. Those big names are a little bit washed, right? He fought an older Tony Ferguson. He fought an older Michael Chandler. And now he's fighting an older Justin Gaethje. And the thing is, we really don't know how good Paddy Pimblett is. I think for his early run in the UFC, I thought he was a little underrated. People weren't giving him a chance to even really break into the top 10 at all. And now I think he might be a little overrated. We just don't know how good he is. And when you look at his game, I mean, he's a submission artist, right? He is incredibly flexible, and he can throw up subs from anywhere. And so he's always going to be dangerous, and he's got a little bit of pop in his shot too. The problem with his fighting style, particularly against somebody like Justin Gaethje, is that he holds his chin up too high, and he gets hit. Now, granted, he's got a good chin, but that can be a problem against somebody like Gaethje. Now, with all of that said, while I do think the line should be closer, I am still taking Paddy Pimblett, and I'm taking Paddy Pimblett by 3rd round submission. All right, next up, we have Sean O'Malley versus Song Yadong, and this was supposed to be the featured fight. It's moved up to the co-main event because Kayla is having surgery, and that would have been a mega fight, Kayla Harrison versus Amanda Nunes. I mean, incredible fight. We don't get to see that, unfortunately. But this fight will deliver, and this is what I like about what the UFC is doing. They're making matchups that are very relevant in the rankings, but they're also designed to deliver. And so when you look at Sean O'Malley, and let me just glance at his record, he is 18-3. Song Yadong is 22-8. Sean O'Malley, I mean, he's an electrifying striker. He is a precision striker. And that's really where I think he generates some of his power, because he's not the hardest hitter, but he can put you out depending on when and how he hits you. He's a high volume striker. We saw what he did to Coutinho, absolutely destroyed him, but never put him out. We also saw that he was able to go toe to toe with Peter Yan, the current champ. And Maraba and Cheeto are the only people to ever defeat Sean O'Malley. So an exciting fight on a big card can put him right back in the mix. And this is really what this fight card is designed to do. It's really designed to create a level of action and entertainment. So when a highly ranked fighter wins and wins in exciting fashion, this new audience to which the UFC is introducing itself is drawn to the sport in a greater capacity than maybe before. And when you move over to Song Yadong, I mean, he's an exciting fighter. He's a good athlete. He's well-rounded. He has, a certain amount of power. It's just when he gets to that elite level in terms of the competition, he's not able to get over the hump. I don't think I don't think he has championship upside, but I think this fight is absolutely appropriate. And taking all that into consideration, I think it's going to be Sean O'Malley. I think it's going to be a fun fight. I don't think he's going to put him out. I think Song Yadong's going to have some moments, but give me Sean O'Malley by decision. And let me just click back over here to bring up the odds real quickly. Sean O'Malley is a -205 favorite. Song Yadong a +170 underdog. I think that's actually appropriate. What I don't think is appropriate is Waldo Cortes Acosta being a -298 favorite against Derrick Lewis, who is a -240. And that is the featured fight, so let's get into it. This fight, I don't think this should be the featured bout. I think it should be Umar Nurmagomedov versus Figueiredo. I think that's, in terms of delivering entertainment, I think in terms of the fight itself, because Derrick Lewis will deliver entertainment one way or the other. He's either going to get a knockout or he's going to get on the mic and say something funny. And, well, I guess he's probably going to have to get a knockout to get on the mic to say something funny. So, this could be massive for the UFC if it's a first-round knockout, because that would deliver the excitement. And then, he will say something funny to a new audience. And, his personality is larger than life. When I look at Derrick Lewis, I think one of the most important things when you're introducing the sport to a new audience, you get to create a narrative. And creating narratives are important. You get to tell the audience, this person holds the most knockouts in UFC history. I mean, I believe it's like, I think he has 29 wins, and let me just see how many wins he has. I think 24 of them are by knockout or TKO, which is, which is pretty crazy. And let me just take a quick look at this. He's 29-12, and he's won 3 out of his last 4 fights. Right when you thought he completely fell off and he was done, he comes back, and he's finishing those fights. He's looked actually pretty good. And so we know what Derrick Lewis is going to bring. He's going to bring power. Now, one of the things with Derrick Lewis, his volume sometimes drops to almost nothing. He's waiting for that perfect shot. The good news for Derrick Lewis is that perfect shot is going to be a knockout. The problem for Derrick Lewis is also he's going to take a lot of damage if he just waits around, particularly against somebody like Cortes. And this is where this matchup is pretty interesting, because Waldo Cortes Acosta, he's a striker and he's got a really good jab. He's a pretty big dude. I mean, Derrick Lewis is gigantic, so that's not going to be a problem. He moves reasonably well for a heavyweight, and he's putting together quite the winning streak. But his wins have not been against the top tier talent. Despite his ranking, I do not think he's a world beater, and I think Derrick Lewis is going to knock him out, and I think Derrick Lewis is going to knock him out in the first round. So give me Derrick Lewis by first round knockout. All right, before that, we are going to get who I consider to be the best female fighter in the world. Nope, not Kayla. Nope, not Valentina Shevchenko. It is Natalia Silva, and she is taking on the former champ, Rose Namajunas. And what's fascinating about this fight is Silva is a minus 410 favorite. Now, even though she's a 410 favorite, a minus 410 favorite, I do not think the line should be that big because Rose is an elite level fighter. She's one of the best. I mean, you think about her wins. She's got 2 wins over Wei Li. She's got 2 wins over Joanna. I mean, she is elite. The problem is you never know what Rose is going to show up. We saw when she lost her belt to Carla Esparza. She just didn't throw volume. She's the better fighter, but she just did not show up to fight. And that's always a problem. But even the best Rose, the best version of Rose, I think might not be enough for Natalia Silva. I think Natalia Silva is that good. When you look at Natalia Silva, she has incredibly fast hands. She has good footwork. And she has not lost a fight. And let me bring this up. I looked at this the other day. It's pretty crazy. The last time Natalia Silva lost a fight, let me see. So Natalia Silva is 19-5. And I think you need a little bit of context for this as well. Her last loss was back in 2017. She's only 28 years old. She was a teenager the last time she lost. And so let me just count how many wins she has in a row because it's pretty crazy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. She is on a 13-fight win streak, and she has big names. She's beat Alexa Grasso. She beat Jessica Andrade. She beat Jasmine Jasudavicius. She is elite, and I think when she goes up against Valentina Shevchenko, I think she's going to beat her. And I think in this fight, she's going to beat Rose as well. The difference is I think Rose is going to show up, but I still don't think it's going to be enough. I think it's going to be closer. But with that said, give me Natalia Silva by decision. All right, opening the main card, and this is probably the best fight on the entire card. This fight is so nuts. Jean Silva versus Arnold Allen. Silva is a minus 218. Arnold Allen is a plus 180. Jean Silva is the hardest hitter in the featherweight division. He had Diego Lopez in a world of trouble in his last fight, and that could have went very differently. He's good everywhere, and again, it's his power. He is so dangerous. Now, Arnold Allen, I don't think people realize how good he was. He was en route to beating Mosvar, and he kneed him in the head, and they called it an illegal knee. It was not an illegal knee. If the ref did not intervene, he would actually probably be looking for a title shot right now. So Arnold Allen, he got robbed in that fight, and so that's a loss on his record. I mean, he only has 3 losses. He's 20-3. It's to Mosvar, it's to Max Holloway, and then some dude he fought back in 2014. More than 10 years, more than a decade ago. And so I think this fight should be a pick'em. I would give the slight edge to Silva, and he does have it. He's a minus 218. That kind of makes sense. Maybe I'd put it a little bit closer. Silva is so dangerous. He can end a fight at any given minute, and I think that's going to happen. Give me Silva by knockout. Okay, the featured prelim, and think about how crazy this is for a prelim fight. Umar Nurmagomedov versus Deiveson Figueiredo. Now, this is actually brilliant matchmaking. And I know what you're probably saying. Umar Nurmagomedov is going to destroy him. Yes, he will. And the odds indicate that. The odds are Umar Nurmagomedov is a minus 180 favorite. I'm sorry, he's a minus 1,800 favorite. And why this is beneficial is that the reason why this makes sense is that it's a showcase fight. It's a fight, and I mentioned it's a showcase fight for a future champ. I mentioned there were 2 future champs on this card, or a couple. One is Umar Nurmagomedov. The other one is Natalia Silva. She will beat Valentina Shevchenko when they fight. Now, Nurmagomedov, he's an exciting fighter, and his only loss is a championship fight against Merab, and he was winning the first 2 rounds. He just gassed out. He got tired. He is the best fighter in this division, and he will find his way back to a championship fight. And it might be right after this fight, because what the UFC is doing remember how I mentioned storytelling is important? So what they're able to do is they're able to craft a narrative that here's this elite level talent. He only has one loss, but now he's fighting the former champion. Yes, it was at a lower division. The former champion who is ranked in the top 10. So rankings wise, it is an appropriate matchup. What's going to happen though is Umar Nurmagomedov is going to light Figueiredo up. And I don't even think this is going to go the distance. I think I think Umar is going to put such a pace and such a beating on Figueiredo. I think he finishes it by TKO in the second round. And what this does for the UFC is it allows them to elevate a fighter that many casual fans, or of which many casual fans have never heard. And now you elevate his status. Now you have a star. You have somebody you can market in future events. This is brilliant matchmaking because the rankings are appropriate. The matchup itself is not, because Nurmagomedov is going to absolutely destroy him. Before that, we are going to get a fight that allows the UFC, again, to craft a narrative to a new audience because it features who I consider to be the best prospect in the entire sport. It is Atiba Gaethje. He's 3-0 in the UFC. All have been first round finish. Yes, the competition has been terrible, but we're talking about story. We're talking about somebody who is a physical freak. The guy's 6'4". He is about as ripped as you can possibly get. He is absolutely massive. He is a freak athlete as well. He has remarkable power. He is, has incredible speed. Now, we don't know what his ground game is yet, right? He hasn't needed that. And so there are a lot of questions. But this is the guy you want on your first fight card on a new network. Because not only are you able to craft the appropriate narrative, you're going to get somebody who fits the part. He captures the imagination of what a dominant UFC fighter could be, or should look like, right? And so he's going to come out there. He's a minus 900. And what I like about this fight, he's fighting somebody who has a win in the UFC. This is a small step up in competition, but it's an appropriate one. It's Andre Puliev. Now, Puliev, he is 10-3. He's 1-1 in the UFC. So he's fighting somebody, who has a little bit of experience in the UFC. And I still think Atiba is going to absolutely destroy this guy. I really do think this guy is special. And he does have a bit of a boxing and a kickboxing background. He's not somebody that's just, work using raw athleticism and, his physical tools. And it will be interesting as he moves up to fight stiffer and stiffer competition, where we might see gaps in his game, but he's only 23 years old. So when I look at him as a potential future champ, I don't care if he has gaps in his game at age 23. By the time he's 28, if he does have gaps, those can be addressed. So I think it's going to be, a first round massacre, just like all of his other fights. So yeah, give me first round knockout, Atiba Gaethje. Now before that, Nikita Krylov versus Modestas Bukauskas. Now, Bukauskas is a little bit better than we thought. He's actually turned into a pretty solid fighter. I mean, he crashed out at the UFC earlier, and then he's made a comeback and he's beating guys, and he's looking pretty good. He's a pretty well-rounded mixed martial artist. He doesn't have that top 5 upside or anything like that, but he's fighting a ranked guy in Nikita Krylov. I think he's still ranked. I'm not going to click on this to find out, but Bukauskas is 19-6, and let me just check out what he's done recently, because I know. Oh yeah, he's 4-0 in his last, in his last 4 fights, and he's 8-1 in his last 9 fights. And of those 8 fights, 6 of those were in the UFC. So this is, he's a solid fighter. But so is Nikita Krylov. And what's interesting about Nikita Krylov is he can finish you. He can finish you on the ground. He can finish you in the feet. Now, what's crazy is he's looked like he's slowed down a bit, which is crazy because he's still young. But young in terms of he shouldn't be physically declining. He's only 33 years old. But when you look at his 30 wins, he's 30-11. He has, let me just take a look at this. 28 of those have come by finish. 16 of which have been submissions, 12 of which have been KOs or TKOs, which is pretty remarkable. And let me just click over here to the odds. I do not remember what the odds are for this fight. The odds are Modestas Bukauskas minus 198, Nikita Krylov a plus 164. I think that's incorrect. I would flip those. I think it's a good fight. I think it's a compelling fight. But Nikita Krylov has the ability to finish, and he's always going to be dangerous. He's going to be dangerous anywhere. And Bukauskas, like I said, he's a good fighter. He's a really good technical striker. I just don't think he's going to be able to get it done. Give me Krylov. Give me Krylov by second round TKO, and which actually, you know what? No, I think he's going to get it. Give me Krylov second round submission. I think he's going to lock up a sub. I mean, I think this is, a really good fight. It's a really good fight to have, pretty deep down on the prelims. And speaking of deep down on the prelims, get a load of this fight. Charles Johnson versus Alex Perez. Johnson, the minus 192 favorite. Alex Perez, plus 160. Now, Charles Johnson has probably had the toughest road ever getting into the rankings. His first fight in the UFC was against Makayev, right? And then he's fought solid people at every step of the way, and he is the only person in the UFC with the win over the current champ Joshua Van. He also has the only win over Loner Kavanaugh, who some people think, has championship upside as well. I mean, he is a pretty elite level prospect. Charles Johnson is good, but so is Alex Perez. Now, Alex Perez, he's been losing a lot lately, but he's been fighting the best of the best, and he's still not that old. Actually, Charles Johnson is older than him. Now, with that said, I'm going to take Charles Johnson by decision. Now, if we look at the fight before that, this is one of the fights. I mean, it's a great fight for a filler. When I mean it's a great fight, I don't think it's going to be an exciting fight. It's an appropriate fight as a filler because I don't, to fill up the card is what I mean. Because I don't think this fight's going to be that interesting. It's Michael Johnson versus Alexander Hernandez. Johnson, he's 26-19. Hernandez, he is 18-8. It's kind of an odd fight because it doesn't really build anybody up. Michael Johnson is 39 years old. Alexander Hernandez will never, see a title in his life. So it's kind of an interesting matchup. Well, what's interesting, I'm just looking at it now, and I just needed to remind myself, Michael Johnson has won his last 3 fights, which is crazy at age 39. And against some okay talent too, which is pretty shocking. And let me look at the odds real quickly. Okay, here we go. Yeah, Alexander Hernandez, a minus 192 versus Michael Johnson, a plus 160. I think the line should be bigger. I think Alexander Hernandez, he's just younger, he's faster. I know a lot of people keep talking about Johnson's hand speed and that it's stayed. No, it hasn't. It's dropped. It's still pretty fast. It's fast for his age, and that's not going to be good enough. And I think he's going to get, I think he's going to get lit up here. And give me Alexander Hernandez to get a second round knockout. So maybe this is the reason. Maybe this is the reason this fight is on the card. It presents an interesting opportunity to get a pretty good knockout, to get a finish early on the prelims, and that can excite the crowd. Before that, we're going to get Cameron Smotherland versus Ricky Turcios. Smotherland, a minus 198 favorite. Turcios is a plus 164 underdog. And I think this line is appropriate. I mean, look, Smotherland has lost, I think he's 0-2 in the UFC, but he's actually looks like he's a decent fighter. Ricky Turcios, he has some wins in the UFC, but I mean, I think he's a little overrated. He has, he throws good volume, but he has absolutely no power, and that's his thing. He can be a fun, exciting fighter, and I think maybe this fight, will deliver in some action, but I think Smotherland is going to win a pretty convincing decision, and I don't think it's going to be. I think maybe Turcios might have a couple moments, but I don't think he'll ever hurt Smotherland. Now, before that, we're going to get Josh Hokett versus Denzel Freeman. Hokett, a minus 245 favorite, Freeman a plus 200 underdog. And why this fight is interesting, Hokett looks to be a pretty solid athlete. I believe he's a former football player, and he's got some personality. So when we talk about building narratives and you start to be able to tell a story about somebody's athletic background, then he gets on the mic and he says something interesting, that's somebody around whom the UFC can build. And it's not like the UFC wants to build build up necessarily Josh Hokett per se, but he is an interesting addition to the heavyweight division. Is he any good? I mean, against top level talent, I don't know, because he hasn't faced that, but he hasn't faced anybody good yet. But I think this is an appropriate move because the heavyweight division is so thin that anybody with a little bit of skill can go pretty far. And let me just take a look at he's only 28 years old. Yeah, he's 7-0. So you get to tell the story of a former athlete who's undefeated, all of which have come by finish. And then he gets on the mic. He will say something interesting. And Denzel Freeman this is a pretty good it's a pretty good test for him. He is a good fighter. He has a good MMA pedigree outside of the UFC, which is why it was shocking to see him win such a ho-hum decision in his last in the last fight. So that was a little surprising. With that said, so this is a good matchup. I think Hokett's going to get it done. And I think he's going to get it done by second round TKO. And if he does that, it's going to be the best competition he's ever faced. And if he gets a win over somebody like Freeman, even though his stock has dropped a little bit, I think it's gonna say a lot. And I forgot if I told you the odds. So let me just bring that up again real quickly. Let me see. I just clicked on something different. Excuse me. I really should be more prepared, but that's against my nature. All right, Hokett minus 245. Wow, I think that's a little that this line is a little big. Denzel Freeman plus 200. I think it should be a little bit closer, even though I have it going for Hokett. All right, opening the card, Ty Miller, and this is a late edition versus Adam Fugit. Miller, he is a minus 350 favorite, and let me just flip back on this one. And he's 6-0. It's always interesting when you have another undefeated fighter, or when you start. And again, I'm looking at this from the perspective of the UFC introducing the fight to a new audience for the first time. When you have an undefeated fighter, you get to build compelling narratives, right? Whether true or not, you get to capture the imagination of how good this person might be. And it's not like Miller is his top prospect or anything, but I think it's an interesting fight to open this card with, and I am going with Miller by decision. And so those are my picks and my predictions. And so when you think about this fight card, it truly is a remarkable fight card for the depth. You're going to have these compelling narratives. You're going to have superstars who are going to be able to be elevated to a completely different level if they deliver. And the matchups, most of which are competitively appropriate, and the ones that are not are designed to build somebody up. So I think this fight card is absolutely going to deliver. I wouldn't miss a single fight. Well, maybe the Michael Johnson fight might be that might be your restroom break. But besides that, this fight card is stacked. So thank you for your time. Like, subscribe, write a comment, tell me who you think is going to win the main event, and I'll see you next time.